So, Newcastle United have lost again in the Premier League, which is not an intro to a video I've ever had to do before, really, under Eddie Howe. So it all feels a little bit foreign to us. But there are lots of things that I thought might start to happen in the new year that I think in that match against the best team in the world, I saw a couple of them already starting to take shape. I'm going to be talking about on this video, Newcastle fans. It's the last word, so do us a favour if you're curious, and I think you are, and make sure you stick around.
Harry Orchid.
Welcome back to Black and White Banter, you beautiful subscribers, Newcastle fans, followers, likers, whoever you may be watching this video. And if you've just come on YouTube to maybe find some sort of cooking video or how to take a nail out of a wall and you ended up here, I'm sorry, but you may as well stick around. And you know what else you may as well do? You may as well give us a little likey, Lou, drop us one of them, just goes a long way. Means that more people who were trying to find a video on how to take a nail out of a wall might randomly end up here as well. All sorts of people might come across this video by you just taking a second to whack that like and whack that subscribe button if you like my opinion by the end of this. I know a lot of other people on YouTube say whack the notification bell. I just feel like it seems a lot to ask you to do 3 things. But if you want to whack a notification bell to find out when I next post, then do it. So, I normally start these videos by saying hope you're having a fantastic week. I haven't really been able to say that too often apart from that glorious derby win because Newcastle have kind of forgot how to win football matches, which is not ideal. So there's been lots happening in the time that I've taken since Manchester City on Saturday and making this video. Lots of different news stories popping up left, right and centre. But I want to start by making a bit of an announcement. I've got to get some sort of noise for an announcement, surely. There you go. There it is. Yeah, not a big one. I'm not going to sing and dance about it. Something with YouTube that makes me uncomfortable and I find very common across the content creation world is the fact that it's all monetized eventually. Don't like it. Obviously, you know, I'll touch on how that might change in the future in a second, but I feel like because we have such a passionate fan base, I make my opinions very clear, as I should, on my own YouTube channel, that I don't like clickbait, I don't like clickbait titles, I don't like certain things. I'm very particular in what I like to watch when I go on YouTube myself. And I see a lot of, how do you want to word it, desperation for views and views and views and views and views. So what I've decided to do, my videos do get monetized. I did finally fall into that bracket. You've got to hit 2 criteria, just to be transparent with you on how YouTube works. You've got to hit a certain amount of subscribers, which isn't many, but then you've got to get quite a large amount of views before you register for being paid monthly off YouTube. Because I basically get paid peanuts, what I've decided to do, I don't want that to alter how I make content. I want the focus for me not to ever be given views and what might get views a thought, but to be talking about things I want to talk about. So moving forward, I'm going to donate every payment that comes through from YouTube to the Newcastle Food Bank, just moving forward. I don't know why I'm making that announcement. It's not an attention-seeking thing. I'm not going to stick it on my Facebook and my Twitter and all that. It's just, I know you might see the ads pop up now when you watch my videos, and the most common question I get on away games now from fans who are nice enough to have a big crack with us is, you must do alright from that YouTube. I don't like that being one of the first things said, and there will constantly be this narrative now at Newcastle matches, particularly away matches when we're all on the concourses and whatnot, where fans who will speak to me about making content assume that I'm doing so to make money. And the reason I said I'd come back to if things ever changed, if I got 10,000, 15,000 subscribers and my views were then racking up money that would be substantial enough for me to call it a pretty good income per month, that's when I might change. You know, I've got bills to pay. I'm not flash for cash by any means, but this little piddly amount that I get per month is probably better suited elsewhere, and it means I continue doing it because I enjoy it. And yeah, there's a lot of that. There's weird things. I've had one Newcastle YouTuber inbox me this week saying we need to chat, like he was talking to me like he was my dad. because I voiced my opinion on an open group on my personal Facebook about something he'd said in a video about a Newcastle discussion. I wasn't abusive. I got a message saying we need to chat. Literally the most patronising. It's just a weird community, and I'm not really part of it. But the monetising and the clickbait and the titles, it frustrates me. That's why I prefer watching like 2-hour-long podcasts, because you know that's just a load of blokes sat around talking all things Newcastle. But anyway, enough of that. This is the last word. I like to do these once a week. And just on that note, I am going to be trying to increase what content I churn out. I'm getting a little bit bored on match vlog, match preview, last word. I've got quite a creative mind, and I want to bring more. I want to do more. So I'm sitting down right now as we speak with a notepad and pen, thinking about all the different video titles, video genres, video concepts that I can start churning out on a weekly basis, rather than just discussing a news thing that pops up. So anyway, Manchester City, we got beat. Again, it wasn't great. Knife in the leg last minute. We've had too many of them this season. But as I said at the start of this video, I am taking so many positives out of defeat, probably more than I have for a while. And why do I say that? Well, I've said on a lot of videos going into 2024, and I've been that guy, as some Newcastle fans would maybe say, to keep going back to the injury list, to keep going back to our style of play being so intense and unique compared to a lot of teams in the Premier League, that it is not suited to having no rotation with a game on a Wednesday, a game on a Saturday, a game on a Thursday, a game on a Sunday. It's just not sustainable. And what I genuinely believed would happen in 2024, and will continue to, is we will get that back, because players will start coming back from injury. I know we've got that news about Joe Linton, which is fucking devastating. I'll be totally honest with you. If he's out for the rest of the season, and that's true, that cuts deep. I feel like I've got a relationship with Joe Linton where, like, I've basically got like a photo of him under my bed, under my pillow in my bed, because there's just something about him. His power on the pitch, his athleticism, his attacking contributions that have improved. It's a loss. And it's another one to stick on that list, and it's heartbreaking. But we will start to get players back. Barnes, we believe, is a little bit closer. Murphy is in training. Willock, you'd like to hope. We don't really know what his time back is. You get what I'm saying. Livramento out with illness. He could have been a big help, Man City. Callum Wilson's back for Aston Villa. We will get players back that will allow us to rotate. But not only that, we will go back to one game a week. And I said after Sunderland that I was worried it was a smokescreen. Sunderland, I didn't think we were great. They bent over and said, you have your wicked way with us, like some sort of cheap night in a hotel. And we did, and we won, and we got over the line, and that was great. But I was worried about Forest and Liverpool still at the back of my mind. But I hoped that it might be the start of Eddie Howe getting the players in for regular training, days off to chill, and we might see those cogs turning. And what I saw for about 55 to 60 minutes against the best team in the world, and let that be said, the team we played on Saturday were the best team in the world. They've just won the fourth trophy in Saudi Arabia, the Club World Cup, so they're officially the best team in the world. And no one passes the ball around like Man City do. They had, I can't even remember the numbers, but I'll put them on the screen because I'll get a screenshot of them up. They had a ridiculous amount of passes in that match to ours. I think ours was in the 200s. Theirs was 3 times that, if not 4 times. Like I say, I'm trying to memorise that stat, but I'll share with it. And that's what you have to put up with, and that's what you have to deal with. But what I saw in that first half was something I have not seen for a long time. First thing I saw, energy levels. It was like the batteries had been put back in some of the players. Gordon, Almiron and Isak with that very strict, very disciplined press, knowing when to press the defenders and the goalkeeper and when not to. And it was working like a charm. They did not know how to deal with the pressure being put on them. But Alexander Isak, one of the best strikers in the world in my opinion, so obvious why we spent the money we did on him. They couldn't cope. They didn't know whether to go tight to him. They didn't know whether to stay off him. And they played such a high line that in Isak's hands. I've said I think Isak's a very isolated striker for us this season. Not when you're playing against centre-backs like Man City do, who support their attack and get really high. And it worked a storm. And look at that first goal. Wow, that ball running from so deep, Isak, but he was on it because he knew what Bruno was going to do. The connection between the two. It was brilliant. And we were great. It was like I was watching Newcastle of 3 months ago. That's what it felt like. Eddie Howe's Newcastle United were back. Second thing I noticed, Eddie Howe was trying things tactically, and what he's been guilty of, and I've said it again on videos for a good couple of months now, is same old. Same group of players, which is no fault of his own, but every single match we would set up identical. We wouldn't do anything different. And what I said is Newcastle are going to be found out. We were so good last season, we will start to get found out. And I almost feel like he's a manager adapting to this new fixture congestion that we had with travelling to Europe. He's never done that before. Cup competitions, the cutthroat of the Premier League over December, how intense it is. And what I saw on Saturday, if anyone noticed this, was in the first half, Almiron, whether he played well doing what he did is another story, but he was asked to play in the middle. He was dragged central to drag Man City's defenders in. I could see why they were doing it. That allowed Trippier more space down the right-hand side. The full-back felt like he had to follow Almiron because suddenly now Isak and Miggy were taking up the same position in the centre circle. And it was Eddie Howe trying something different. Shea and Botman, as a centre-back pair, have not played that high for God knows how long. If anyone noticed that in the first half, so high they were pretty much on the halfway line. Not been seen from us for a very long time. We know how we like to play. Out from the back, normally to Trippier on the right-hand side, get it further forward. Bruno makes us tick and pivots and plays the ball left or right, and we go from there. We were so pushed up. And that put the emphasis on us to get at them and go even higher to their goalkeeper and defenders in our own press. And it was working, and it did work against one of the best teams in the world. We were 2-1 up at half-time. Now, another point that I need to get off my chest. The social media bedwetters, if you want to call them that, since the game, since full-time, have said that Eddie Howe should be managing that second half better, that he shouldn't be setting us up defensively the way that he did. Eddie Howe did not set Newcastle United up defensively. I'm sorry, I said it on my Last Word blog, if anyone follows me on Facebook and Twitter. He doesn't have that in his repertoire. He doesn't. In all of his time at Bournemouth, yes, he's got better as a defensive coach, which is how adaptable he can be, but he is not the manager at home in the Premier League, 2-1 up, who says, "Oh, my dog, let's go defensive. He doesn't. And Anthony Gordon said it in his press conference after he was asked what the game plan was at half-time. He said Eddie Howe told them to go for a third. The players tried it in the first 5 to 10 minutes of the second half and they could not keep up. Gordon and Isak were visibly knackered. Literally shattered. And what came with that was an acceptance that it wasn't quite working the way it did in the first half because of tired legs, but also caution. Caution to the wind as Man City started passing the ball 700 odd times, and a little factor of a certain Kevin De Bruyne coming off the bench. The best midfielder, in my opinion, in world football. A Kevin De Bruyne who's been rested, probably been on the sunbeds of Dubai, ready to go again. Best player in the world casually comes off the bench. Jack Grealish, £100 million, doesn't even get off the bench. Barely gets a warm-up on the touchline. You hate to go back to substitutes. Newcastle, if we had in that second half 2-1 up, a Joe Willock to drive us up the pitch, a Murphy with a zip on the right-hand side, a Wilson to just give Isak a bit of a break, to continue chasing that goalkeeper down. I'm sorry, I genuinely think we take it to them even more. I'm not saying we win the match by any means, because on the overall game, you could argue Man City deserved to win. Pep Guardiola was very passionate about that. I think a draw would have been a fair result both sides if you look at both halves. But Man City had chance after chance after chance. And they had all of the ball. But I think we go about that second half differently. It wasn't an Eddie Howe tactic. It wasn't. But to summarise what I'm trying to get at here, Newcastle fans, is that going into 2024, I hoped the reduced fixtures and a bit of a rest for this group of players while we continue to go through an injury crisis might have seen our style of play, which is so important to our success, start to return. I also hope that Eddie Howe might look at things different from a tactical point of view. And so he did, in my opinion. I'm not saying Almiron moving into the central in the first half was revolutionary, but I have not seen Eddie Howe make any kind of change like that apart from Isak and Gordon switching for the best part of 2 months. And he's openly talked about getting players back in on the training ground to really work on things rather than just 2 days here or there before we jet them back off to Paris and Milan. I saw enough positives. Of course, we could have done things better in that second half. Of course we could have. Kevin De Bruyne should not be in the space that he was in to pick up that ball to score their second goal. Three midfielders in front of him. Does it hammer home the fact that we need a central defensive midfielder? Yeah, I think it does. Does it hammer home how tired the legs were in that second half? Most definitely. You are not telling me that Longstaff, Miley and Bruno are all not capable of knowing who the danger man is when he comes on. It was just tired minds and tired... And again, I probably sound like Captain Excuses. I maybe do. But for me, a lot of these things are just facts. They really, really are. And yeah, could Eddie Howe have brought a fifth defender on? A third centre-back on to really defend what we had? Yeah, he maybe could have. But for me, he decided to go what he had on the pitch in case we got that ball up the field to support the attack a bit more. Sometimes dropping another player into defence as a substitute and taking an attacker off gives emphasis to the opposition to push a little bit harder, but also to our players. Oh shit, Eddie Howe really does want us to defend, right? Let's not even go past halfway. And he chose, and on another day, we get a point against the champions. We do. We really, really do. And I would like to hope, and I'm going to stand by this statement, that all of these negative factors that we're seeing, like more shots on goal, like us maybe being easier to play against, like us surrendering leads, are going to change as we move into February, March and April. They are. I have got no doubts about it. And that's without January transfers coming in. Without that, just with players slowly coming back, with us rest, and we've got a winter break as I make this video, that's going to change. We've conceded a third of our goals in the last 5 minutes. That's an unheard of stat under Eddie Howe. All that tells me, you can read between whatever you want, and that doesn't come down to the manager at all. That's mental if you think that. That just comes down to tired minds and tired legs. It does. I'm sorry. If you are bringing substitutes on in with 10 minutes to go, array of substitutes, attacking and defensive, that these things don't happen because you've got a little bit more mental sharpness entering the pitch. And for whatever reason, Eddie Howe does not feel the need to bring on Kraft, your Dummets and your Lewis Hall, who saw barely any time. I thought he looked okay. All of these statistics that are negative right now around this football club, I think will slowly just go out like someone pissing on a fire. I genuinely believe that, and I'll stand by that. But for me, as I left St James's Park on Saturday, there was a Manchester City fan speaking to me, and his words to me were, we talked about his trophies galore. He was an old bloke, when you know that he's a long-term City fan. He's not just around for this trophy-winning era. He said, you guys are so much further into this project than we were 2 years into ours. You're really ahead of us by a country mile. And that, for me, to sum up this video and sum up my last word on Saturday, was a telling statement from someone who has now been there and seen it all. From getting taken over all the way through to being the best team in the world who's won everything. Charges and whatnot ignored for a second. We are way ahead. And yes, could you argue that Champions League qualification last season and the Cup final was maybe Eddie Howe's early downfall? Of course you could. But we were never going to turn it down, and nor was he. Everything is a learning curve for this football club. And what I wanted to see going into 2024 was positive steps back in the right direction. Because with less fixtures, that's not an argument anymore. With players slowly coming back, not yet, that becomes less of an argument. And I already saw against the best opposition you can possibly go up against, those things were back. Newcastle United in that first half were electric, and we contributed to one of the best games in the Premier League this season. If that doesn't give you confidence that things are going to start improving, maybe with a couple of new faces, who knows, then nothing will. And I did. I left St James's Park, gutted at the last minute goal, but full of beans, full of positivity that things are going to get better. And Aston Villa doesn't get any easier. The FA Cup away to Fulham is not an easy game by any means, but we'll be well rested by then. And I will be backing us all the way into February, into March, into April. And would you really bet a lot of these negative Nellies out there would bet against it? Would you bet against Newcastle going on an incredible run between now and the end of the season? I wouldn't, which is why I think there is still a hell of a lot to play for supporting this football club in the 23-24 season. Newcastle fans, let me know your thoughts. What did you take away from Saturday? How are you feeling going into this break? Because I guess when there's a break in football, you've still got the last match on your mind. Let me know. And by the way, I'm wearing one of my black and white banter hoodies. I do promote my merchandise across all the socials. If anyone would like a hat, a scarf, a t-shirt, a hoodie, Let me know, and I can send that information over to you. I kept the costs as low as possible because I basically get peanuts for selling it. But, you know, if you want to look as trendy and cool as I do and be the envy of friends and maybe, you know, impress the ladies when out having a couple of beers on a Saturday night with one of these, let me know, and I'll see you for another video later in the week. There's plenty going to be to talk about in the next 2 weeks. I'd like to hope it's transfer news, but who knows. Keep the faith, Newcastle fans, and thank you very much for watching. How are the lads?